Welcome to this Executive PMP Certification Masterclass. Have you ever wondered why some project managers can navigate a crisis with total composure while others struggle under the pressure of a shifting deadline? The secret isn't just in the tools they use, it's in how they think. Today, we are diving deep into the project management principles and specifically the mindset and modern PM thinking required to lead in today's volatile business environment. In the past, project management was often treated as a checklist of tasks. However, modern project management has evolved. It is no longer enough to simply follow a process. You must embody a specific mindset that prioritizes value over just getting things done. This session is designed to shift your perspective from being a task driver to becoming a strategic leader. We will explore the overarching values that guide high-performing teams and ensure that every action you take aligns with the bigger picture. As we move through this masterclass, keep in mind that these principles are the heartbeat of the modern project landscape. They are not just academic theories. They are the decision-making filters you will use to solve complex, real-world problems. By the end of this module, you will have a clearer understanding of how to approach any project challenge with a modern, professional lens. Let's begin by outlining exactly what we aim to achieve in this session. What does it actually mean to master project management? Is it knowing the formulas, or is it knowing how to apply them when things go wrong? To ensure you get the most out of this session, we have established 4 core objectives. First, we want you to internalize the modern project management mindset. This is about shifting your internal compass so that your default reactions to project changes are proactive rather than reactive. Next, we will deconstruct the core guiding principles of delivery. Think of these principles as the DNA of your project. By breaking them down, you'll understand how quality, leadership, and systems thinking interweave to create a successful outcome. Our third objective is practical application. You will learn to apply value-driven thinking to real-world scenarios. For technical professionals, this is crucial. It's the difference between building a technically perfect product that nobody uses and building a solution that solves a genuine business pain point. Finally, we will leverage these concepts to decode PMP situational questions. The exam doesn't just ask for definitions. It puts you in a difficult spot and asks, what would you do next? By mastering these objectives, you'll have the framework to answer those questions with confidence. Now that we know our destination, let's look at why this mindset is the absolute foundation of your success. If you were to walk into the PMP exam today relying solely on memorized processes, you might find yourself struggling. Why? Because the modern PMP exam values mindset over mechanics. It is less about what you memorized and more about how you think. The exam is designed to see if you can act as a professional leader in a simulated environment. This brings us to our decision-making framework. In highly ambiguous project situations, where data might be incomplete or stakeholders are disagreeing, it is the principles that dictate the correct behavior. Principles act as your North Star. When you are faced with a question that has 4 good answers, how do you choose the right one? You use situational dominance. This means you choose the best action based strictly on overarching values like transparency, integrity, and stakeholder value. Think of it this way. The mechanics are the how-to manual, but the mindset is the judgment required to use that manual effectively. For example, a mechanic knows how to change a tire, but a driver with the right mindset knows when it's safe to pull over and change it during a storm. This module will help you build that professional judgment. Next, let's look at the specific pillars that define this mindset. Let's get specific. How do we actually define the PM mindset? At its core, it is a foundational set of beliefs that guide your behavior and your strategy. It isn't just a feeling. It's a functional tool that acts as the connective tissue between project mechanics and business value. Without this mindset, you might be executing tasks perfectly, the mechanics, but failing to deliver anything of actual worth to the company, the value. There are 4 key pillars highlighted here: proactive, ownership, value-driven, and sustainability. This mindset is essential for interpreting and navigating complex, rapidly changing environments. In technical fields, like software development or engineering, things rarely go exactly according to the initial plan. This mindset focuses on fostering adaptability and driving meaningful change rather than just sticking to a static document. When you adopt this perspective, you stop seeing projects as a series of isolated events and start seeing them as a journey toward a specific goal. This requires a commitment to continuous evolution, which is what we will explore in the next slide. Have you ever seen a project fail because the team followed the plan to the letter, even when the plan was clearly no longer working? That is the pitfall of rigid thinking. To succeed today, you must move beyond rigid, traditional project execution mechanics. This slide focuses on embracing continuous evolution. The first step is shifting from a reactive state to a proactive one. A modern PM anticipates challenges proactively rather than merely reacting to them. Instead of waiting for a risk to become an issue, you are constantly scanning the horizon. Furthermore, when setbacks do occur, and they will, you don't view them as failures. Instead, you view execution setbacks as critical data points for continuous improvement. This is a fail fast, learn faster approach that keeps the project moving forward. Most importantly, this evolution ensures that you align project mechanics directly with overarching organizational strategy. Every task your team performs should have a direct line to why the company is doing the project in the first place. Now, let's zoom in on the first two dimensions of this mindset: proactive and ownership. Let's break down the core dimensions of the PM mindset. First, we have the proactive focus. This is about more than just looking ahead. It's about anticipating challenges, integrating systemic thinking, and aligning with evolving stakeholder needs. When you are proactive, you aren't just putting out fires, you are preventing them from starting. The result? It enhances overall project resilience and prevents issues from compounding. For instance, noticing a minor delay in a technical dependency early on allows you to adjust the schedule before it crashes the entire project timeline. The second dimension is ownership focus. This is a shift in culture. As a PM, you foster a high-performance culture built on collaboration and total accountability. This doesn't mean you take all the blame, but it does mean you take responsibility for the outcome. This empowers self-reliant teams that drive success through shared commitment. When a team feels a sense of ownership, they don't just wait for instructions. They proactively look for ways to make the project better. This synergy between proactivity and ownership leads us to the ultimate driver of any project: value. If a project is delivered on time and under budget, but provides no benefit to the company, was it a success? In the modern view, the answer is no. Value is the ultimate driver. Strategic alignment is the first step, ensuring that project outcomes seamlessly integrate with the goals of the organization. But alignment isn't a one-time event. It requires continuous maximization. You must ensure deliverables remain impactful throughout the entire life cycle. We also look at the triple bottom line, which balances people, profit, and planet. This is where sustainability comes in. We aren't just looking for a quick win. We want results that are viable in the long term. This slide provides us with a powerful formula for success. Dollar proactive plus ownership plus value equals exceptional project results dollar. Think of value as the North Star that guides the proactive behaviors and ownership culture you've built. Now that we've defined the mindset, let's look at the specific guiding principles you will use during project execution. Now that we have the mindset, how do we put it into action? We use the guiding principles of execution. These 6 principles form the framework for every decision you will make. First, adopt a holistic view. This means looking at the project as a whole system. Next, you must focus on value, ensuring that every deliverable has a purpose. Third, embed quality. Quality isn't an afterthought. It's built into the process. Then, we have the leadership components. Be an accountable leader, taking ownership of the results. We also must integrate sustainability, considering the long-term impact of our work. Finally, build an empowered culture, where the team has the trust and resources they need to succeed. In the following slides, we will take a deep dive into each of these principles so you can see exactly how they apply to your daily work and the PMP exam. Let's start with the holistic view. Imagine you're a project manager for a new construction project. If you decide to change the materials used for the foundation to save money, does that only affect the finance bucket? Of course not. It affects quality, risk, schedule, and even stakeholder satisfaction. Adopting a holistic view means you treat the project as an interconnected web rather than isolated parts. We apply systems thinking to understand the deep interdependencies within the project. As the central gear in this diagram shows, changing one project domain, whether it's risk, governance, scope, finance, or quality, will heavily impact all others. For example, a change in schedule often ripples out to finance and stakeholders. This holistic approach enables tracing complex problems back to their root origins. Instead of just fixing a symptom, you find the source of the issue within the system. This leads us to why systems thinking is so critical for a project leader. Why go to the trouble of thinking holistically? Because it provides four major advantages. First, strategic alignment. It ensures that every small decision you make supports the larger organizational goal. Second, risk visibility. It helps you anticipate ripple effect challenges before they actually happen. You can see how a delay in one department will cause a bottleneck in another 3 months from now. Third, integrated decisions. It helps you harmonize disparate stakeholder perspectives into unified action. When stakeholders have conflicting needs, the holistic view helps you find the path that provides the most benefit to the project as a whole. Finally, reduced complexity. Paradoxically, by looking at the whole system, you can often uncover inherent simplicity within intricate project webs. You stop getting lost in the weeds and start seeing the patterns. This high-level perspective is what allows you to focus on what truly matters, the value. We need to clear up a common misconception. Outputs are not the same as value. An output is a deliverable, like a software module, a report, or a piece of hardware. Value, however, represents the overall worth and net benefits delivered to stakeholders. It is the business outcome. As this slide points out, a perfect deliverable is useless if it fails to solve the customer's actual problem. This is a crucial shift in thinking. You must focus on intended business outcomes, not just output creation. Furthermore, value is not just about money. It encompasses both financial returns and non-financial benefits, such as social impact or improved brand reputation. For a project manager, this means your job isn't finished when the product is built. It's finished when the value is realized. Let's look at how we protect this investment throughout the project. How do we ensure that a project started today will still be valuable 6 months from now? We protect the investment by constantly assessing value. This isn't a one-time check at the end of the project. Value must be iteratively assessed throughout the entire project lifecycle, during planning, execution, and adaptation. To do this, we utilize quality gates, feedback loops, and regular stakeholder reviews. If the business environment changes, perhaps a competitor releases a similar product, you must adapt rapidly to maintain alignment. Here is a critical exam tip for your PMP journey. Terminate efforts early if the project can no longer deliver the intended value. On the exam, the right answer is often to stop wasting resources on a project that has lost its business case. Next, we look at how to maintain high standards through quality and leadership. To deliver value consistently, you must embed quality into your project. Quality isn't something you check for only at the end. You integrate quality thresholds into every phase. This proactive approach helps you avoid unnecessary rework and waste. For a technical professional, this means doing peer reviews and testing as you go, rather than waiting for a massive integration phase that might reveal fundamental flaws. Paired with quality is accountable leadership. As a PM, you take ownership of project outcomes and transparent decision-making. You are the one who ensures the team remains focused. You also use data-driven insights to maximize positive impacts on the portfolio. Leadership in this context isn't about giving orders. It's about being the person who ensures the project's goals are met through integrity and evidence. This combination of high standards and strong leadership is what allows you to future-proof your project and lead your team effectively. Modern projects don't exist in a vacuum. They have long-term consequences. This is why we integrate sustainability. This means considering the environmental, social, and economic impacts of your project activities. We want our project outputs to lead to resilient and adaptable organizational capabilities. We aren't just building for today, we are building for the future. At the same time, we must focus on empowered culture. A project manager's greatest asset is their team. You must foster environments of trust, collaboration, and creative solutioning. This involves providing the resources needed for self-reliant teams to execute valuable work. When you trust your team and give them what they need, they become more than just workers. They become problem solvers. Now, let's see how all these principles, quality, leadership, culture, and sustainability, work together to drive the project forward. It's important to realize that principles do not exist in a vacuum. They overlap and reinforce each other. Think of the project manager as the orchestrator of these different elements. Quality ensures that the deliverables are actually usable, while culture ensures the team has the morale and environment to build them. Leadership provides the necessary direction, while sustainability ensures that the project's success has long-term viability. When combined, they translate the PM mindset into highly effective project delivery. Your goal is to keep these gears turning in harmony to reach the project's goals. To see this in action, let's look at a realistic scenario involving a software rollout. Let's look at a scenario, the software rollout. Here is the situation. Your stakeholders have requested 50 complex features for a new internal software tool. A traditional reaction would be to blindly build all 50 features, which risks massive delays and budget overruns. This is output obsession, focusing on the quantity of features rather than the quality of the result. Now, let's apply the mindset action. Using a holistic and value approach, you analyze the organizational culture and the ultimate business goal. You realize that the users only really need 5 core features to start being productive. The action you take is to deliver a simplified core feature version first to maximize user adoption and immediate ROI. By delivering value early, the core features, you get immediate feedback and start saving the company money right away, rather than waiting months for a perfect but late product. This is how you lead with mindset. When you sit for the PMP exam, remember, it's situational testing. The questions are designed to test your application of principles, not your memorization of definitions. You need to internalize a few key personas. First, the servant leader. In almost every exam scenario, you should default to empowering the team and removing impediments, rather than telling them what to do. Second, maintain stakeholder centricity. You must prioritize engagement and value realization over rigid adherence to plans. If a stakeholder has a valid concern, you address it. You don't just point at the contract. Finally, adaptability. You must embrace change immediately if it increases business value or reduces severe risk. So, how do you practically approach these questions? We use a 3-step process: analyze, collaborate, and act. Here is your rule of thumb for the exam and for your career. Never jump straight to action without analysis or consultation. When a problem arises, follow this sequence. First, analyze. You must assess the root cause, review the project plan, and evaluate the holistic impact. You need to know why something is happening before you try to fix it. Next, collaborate. Engage stakeholders and the team to discuss solutions and options. As a PM, you don't have to have all the answers, but you must facilitate the conversation to find the best one. Then, and only then, do you act. This is when you update necessary documents, execute the solution, and monitor the results. Following this Analyze, Collaborate, Act framework will help you avoid the common pitfalls that trip up many candidates. To be a top-tier project leader, you must avoid these common pitfalls. The first is escalating immediately. You should avoid running to the sponsor before trying to solve the issue yourself or with your team. The exam wants to see that you are a competent leader. Second, acting autocratically. Never fire a team member or make major scope changes unilaterally. Remember the collaborate step we just discussed. Third, ignoring the ecosystem. Treating a risk in one department as isolated is a failure of systems thinking. Everything is connected. Finally, output obsession. Do not focus solely on finishing a deliverable that no longer offers business value. If the value is gone, the project should change or end. By avoiding these traps, you demonstrate that you can think like a professional project leader. As we wrap up our deep dive into these principles, let's summarize what it means to think like a project leader. It comes down to 5 core behaviors. Think holistically. Understand that every action has a reaction across the project domains. Focus on value. Remember that business outcomes always outrank rigid task completion. Lead with accountability. You must own the failures and share the successes with your team. Empower the team. Give them the environment and support they need. Then trust them to do their jobs. And finally, embrace change. View adaptations as opportunities to enhance the final product, rather than as annoyances. These are the hallmarks of a modern PM. Let's look at our final executive summary. We have covered a lot of ground today. To summarize, the modern PM is guided by a proactive, ownership-driven, and value-centric mindset. Value delivery is not just a milestone at the end. It is the ultimate, continuous metric of project success. We also learned that systems thinking prevents localized decisions from destroying global objectives. Always look at the big picture. Finally, remember that mastering these principles is the definitive key to passing the PMP exam confidently. If you can apply these principles to the situational questions you face, you will not only pass the exam, but also become a significantly more effective leader in your organization. Thank you for your time and focus. Now, go out there and lead with value.